My name is Evie, and in the last month, so many crazy things have happened in my life that you could write an adventure novel. I went from being a rich heiress to an almost criminal in hiding from the CIA. My father was arrested for a major financial fraud. All of my accounts were frozen, and I was left with nothing on the street. But suddenly, the guy next door, Oliver Stix, came to my rescue. A rich genius. He took me to Tanzania, where I successfully hid until my mother showed up. She was the last person I saw when I was a baby. She left me and my father to go to Africa to do what she loved: exploring the wilderness. Want to know the whole story? Link to clips of my adventures below this video. Now, I'm in the middle of nowhere. My mother took me away from the island, under the pretext of saving me from persecution by the authorities. Oliver stayed there. I don't know who to believe anymore, or if I should. I woke up in the freezing cold. Steam was coming out of my mouth. I looked around. A small room. It was all a blur. Tea will help. My mother handed me a large cup. Don't be afraid. In the helicopter, I slipped you a sleeping pill. You don't want to know how we got here. For your own safety. I'm so sick of this. Everybody's telling me what to do. I jumped off the bed, but my mother blocked my path and gently pulled me back down. Oh, honey, I know the events of the past few weeks have been hard on you, but you weren't ready for this. I want to understand, and I want the truth. Either I surrender to the authorities. I'm tired of running away. Mom went pale. Okay, you're old enough to understand everything, Evie. So you know about me roughly the following. I am very fond of wildlife. And that's why, when you were little, I went to Africa to treat lions. I nodded slowly. In fact, I was declassified. I was a secret agent and on a mission. To save myself, I had to escape. And Dad? He didn't go to jail by accident. The CIA wants to get information out of him. They want a list of agents. Agents for a secret but powerful organization. One that the CIA has always been on edge with. A chill ran down my spine. And you're on that list, Mom? Mom smiled weirdly. Yes, but Dad didn't turn anyone in. And the important thing now is to get that list ourselves before the CIA gets to him. And I need your help, daughter. Remember when you were a kid and you had a music box? Uh-oh, I remembered that music box. The melody always lulled me to sleep. Daddy said it was a gift from Mother, and it wasn't easy to open. Only with a code. And you were the only one who knew the code, my mother finished. And inside the box is a double bottom. That's where the flash drive with all the information you need is stored. Of course, my mother knew I would not refuse her. Even though our house was sealed, I would find a way to get in there and get the box. So I pondered on the plane that would be landing in an hour in my hometown of Los Angeles. There was a car waiting for us at the airport. The key to the car appeared in my mother's hands as if by magic. We raced to the house. Mom pulled into an alley right outside Oliver's house. There's definitely a patrol watching the house. That's why you have to get between the bars of the fence. Mom looked around. And go in the back door. I'm waiting here. I'm pretty small, so I got in fast. The house was sealed off, but I knew the basement entrance, so I had no problem getting in. It was so empty and quiet. I couldn't believe it. I hurried to my room. A couple of years ago, when I was older, I'd put the box away in the closet. The room was a mess, obviously searched, but nothing was found. The box! There it was, lying under a pile of things in the corner. Of course, no one would have guessed that an innocuous box could hold so many secrets. I typed in the code, and then I clicked it open. Inside was a miniature ballerina. I pressed it gently and... Oh my god! The box opened a slot, and there's a flash drive! Hooray! It worked! Throwing a flash drive in my pocket, I almost ran down the stairs. Faster! Hurry up! Don't do anything stupid, Evie. Oliver was standing on the first floor, looking at me intently. The events of the last few weeks had taught me not to be surprised about anything. But how did you know? The pendant around your neck is a beacon. Oliver gave it to me on our first date, to control my every move. I wanted to run into him and scratch his face. I was so sick of everybody cheating on me. Give me what I want, and we'll forget about it. Your daddy will be set free, and we'll be together. Just as I was about to object, I heard a click behind me. A gun was pointed at me, a little lady's pistol in my mother's hands. "Evie, give it to me! It's the price of my life!"
Don't listen to her, Evie. She's a criminal. The CIA has been after her for a long time. I have proof.
I couldn't find the flash drive. The box is broken. Someone got to it earlier. I said slowly.
What? My mom was furious.
No way! A minute later, several tough guys in masks and with CIA writing on their clothes burst into my house. They arrested my mother, and they read her the charges for a long time. I started shaking. Oliver picked me up and hugged me tightly.
It's okay, Evie. Calm down. I'm here. I'll always be here for you.
We stood like that in my arms for a long time. Yes, I'm madly in love with Oliver, and I'm gonna give him a second chance. I hid the flash drive safely. I'll always be on my guard. Even the closest people to me are the ones who strike. Do you think I did the right thing? I can't take it anymore. I've definitely lost my mind. As awful as it sounds, my mom's aunt ended up in a nut house, so I'm probably going there too. It's 'cause I keep hearing things. Oh, there it is again. This deaf sound. Did you hear it? No? Ah, I hear it all the time. Especially when the evening comes. I'm just going crazy. It started a couple of weeks ago. I was lying in bed, reading a book, and all of a sudden, bang! I heard the sound behind the neighbor's wall. I was alarmed at once, because my neighbor, the tiny old lady, Mrs. McCluskey, had been in the hospital for a week, and she lived alone, so it was clear that no one could be in her apartment. The sound was repeated shortly thereafter, and I got scared. Maybe it were thieves in her apartment. I ran to my parents, told them about my assumptions. My mother threw a robe over her pajamas and ran out. She and I went right up to the neighbor's door, but it was quiet. We stood there for a few minutes, until we were cold to the bone, and we went back home. Mom grumbled angrily. "You should watch less horror stories at night, then you would not have imagined anything." I felt ashamed. The night passed quietly, but the next night it happened again. It seemed to me that behind the wall, someone was jumping or running from corner to corner. Then, all of a sudden, bang! Something fell, and then my insides went cold as I heard a rumbling sound. It was moving closer and farther away from the wall, and I was all my ears, afraid to move. I stayed up all night, and in the morning, coming down the stairs to school, I almost bumped into my downstairs neighbor, a strange lady, Miss Brahms. She had black eyes and hair as black as tar, and she always looked at me with a strange squint. And I thought I could see the devil's fire in those eyes. "Good morning, Kirby," she said to me. "How did you sleep?" And she flashed her eyes at me so hard that I froze in place. I thought I heard that awful rumbling in the night again. I didn't answer her, and quickly ran down the stairs. After school, I didn't hurry home. I went to my friend's house. We did our homework, and I didn't go home until my mom came home from work. My fears were once again confirmed. As soon as night fell, something awful was happening behind the wall. There was running, thumping, scraping, even hissing, which made my blood run cold. I buried myself deeper under the covers and covered myself with a pillow so I wouldn't have to hear it. I slept through the next day's classes at school. And when I came home, I found a strange black envelope under the door. My hands trembled with fear. I decided not to touch it and simply pushed it with my foot and went into the apartment. And then the most terrible thing happened. Before I continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And make sure you have the bell clicked, then you'll know when there's a new video coming out on the channel. There was a loud crying behind the wall. It was like a little kid who had been hurt. I felt uncomfortable. I had to put on my headphones with a relaxing melody. I lay like that until my parents arrived in the evening. I was pale and very nervous, which didn't escape Dad's attention. Reluctantly, I told him what I had heard. He was quiet for a few minutes, and then explained that the sounds of crying were probably coming from upstairs. There was a family living there with 3 small children. No, Dad. I heard that crying behind the wall, from Mrs. McCluskey's. Dad shrugged his shoulders and reiterated that it was impossible because she was in the hospital. We ate dinner in silence and went to our rooms. I watched some movie for a long time and fell asleep. And at exactly midnight, I woke up abruptly from the noise. The dishes in the next room broke with a huge crash. I shrieked and ran to my parents' room. Mom agreed to sit with me for a while, but for the next hour, which she spent over my bed, all was quiet. In the morning, no one believed me again. Mom decided it was all just a bad dream. After breakfast, my parents left for work, and I ran to school as fast as I had ever run in my life. Already in the evening, when I was back in my room, so as not to be distracted by extraneous sounds, I turned on the music and sat down to do my homework. But as soon as the song ended and another was to begin, and I heard a terrible hoarse moaning. It was like it wanted to say something, but stopped abruptly. A few seconds later, I heard a door creak, and I heard something heavy against my wall. I jumped back in fright and surprise. OMG! Could it be a ghost in there? Maybe after the old lady went to the hospital, the evil spirit that lives in her apartment raged? But what could I do about it? The next day, as I was leaving the apartment, I looked at our neighbor's door. Goosebumps ran down my skin. It seemed that behind the door was something creepy and mysterious. Just when I thought about it, something appeared outside the door. I heard quiet footsteps, and something started scrabbling against the door. Its long nails digging into the wood and started to scratch and bang at the door, trying to break it open and attack me. OMG! I ran for my life, and I spent the whole day at school. At night, it happened again. I heard the creepy rustling and footsteps again, then the quiet crying, the ringing again, as if someone had thrown a cup or plate on the floor. And then the silence, oppressive and frightening. And then someone spoke softly, as if over my very ear. Help me! Then I jumped out of bed and ran to sleep in the living room. In the morning, as soon as my parents woke up, I said that there was definitely someone in the next apartment. Mom nodded her head negatively, but I couldn't take it anymore. If you don't help me, I'll call the police myself. I can't sleep because of this noise. My parents looked at each other and called the concierge, who had spare keys and permission from the neighbor to check her apartment in case of emergency. When the door to Mrs. Kluskey's apartment was opened, we saw a terrible sight. The entire floor of the apartment was strewn with scraps of newspapers. Dishes on the floor were broken. There were broken fragments everywhere. There was a string hanging from the lamp in the room. And the walls were torn to shreds, with claw marks everywhere. And then we heard a quiet meow. And we saw a little black kitten crawling from under the sofa and frightened, looking at us. A kitten? Where did it come from? All my fear vanished. I got up on my knees and beckoned the kitten with my hand. He quickly climbed into my arms. licked my cheek, and quietly purred. I exhaled. As it turned out, Mrs. Klusky had gotten a kitten a few weeks before she was hospitalized. And when her ambulance took her to the hospital, she was in no condition to inform anyone about the poor animal that was left alone in the apartment. It had food and water, and the kitten was scared, so it climbed everywhere it could, knocking down dishes and playing with newspapers. For another week, the kitten lived with us, and when the neighbor recovered, she took it back and let me visit the kitten. Now I'm not afraid of the sounds in the neighbor's apartment because I know it's a kitten playing. And one day I was coming down the stairs to school when suddenly Mrs. Brahms appeared out of thin air. She looked at me slyly and smiled and said,
"Kirby, hi. How's it going? I heard about the kitten. That's very noble of you."
I nodded back and took a step back. There was an unpleasant chill about that lady. Suddenly, she leaned toward me and whispered,
"Why didn't you open the envelope? You were supposed to open it."
Suddenly, her eyes were two narrow black slits, and her voice was like a hiss. I cried out in fear, and I ran as fast as I could. And at night, I heard that ominous hissing and that quiet voice again.
"Help me."
I must be going crazy after all. What do you think? What did this lady want to tell me? Why did I have to open that envelope? And why am I hearing those noises again? Write to me. I'm really looking forward to it.